Hello, everyone. This is Ebony Vaughn, and as always, I come to you with a word of encouragement, empowerment, and equipping. And again, as always, I am so excited to come to share with you some things that I believe are very helpful. I don't take for granted that there are many people that say, "Oh, I know this," but I think that it is definitely something that causes us to think and really empowers us to walk fully, being fulfilled in our purpose. And this morning, what I want to talk a little bit about is burnout. So, for those of you who follow me, you know that I am starting an amazing program in September called Haven. And this is a program or these are services that are really geared towards helping leaders, high achievers, and also, it could be leaders as far as entrepreneurship in the marketplace or in ministry, but it's really designed to help people kind of renew, reflect, and be restored in the areas in which they believe that God has called them to. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about burnout is how it is so important for us to understand that burnout is preventable, right? We go through our lives believing that there is a purpose and there is a plan in our lives. And many of us don't always see that our purpose is not a destination, but it is a journey with many assignments, right? And I always use that quote unquote cliche or whatever you want to call it, because I think that it is important for us to understand that you are not destined to a place, but it is a journey that God has graced you with. And sometimes, we reach that place of burnout and we often begin to look at, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go all the way over here and do this or do that. Or, sometimes we find ourselves losing the desire for that thing in which we believe that God has called us to. And I think that it is important for us to understand that because purpose is not a destination, but it is a journey, it's important for us to evolve through that journey. And I want to talk a little bit about that is, because I think that oftentimes one of the reasons why we get to that place of burnout is not the why, but it is the what and the how. And I want to talk a little bit about the what and the how of our purpose, because I truly believe that as kingdom citizens, as God's children, He has all designed a plan specifically and uniquely for each one of us, right? So He has fashioned us to do that which He has called us to do, or the purpose and the plan that He has for our lives, He has equipped us for, right? And so, what happens through our journey through purpose, it really has to do with how are we going about fulfilling the purpose and plan of God in our lives, and what are we doing in this journey. And I believe that this is where the preventable aspects of burnout come in, because, oftentimes burnout is an indicator. It's an indicator of your what and your how, right? What do I mean by that? Well, first and foremost, it can be an indicator of your what, because just because that is your purpose, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are stationed there forever. So sometimes the what has everything to do with you beginning to reflect and you beginning to explore. Is God moving you into another area of your purpose? So it doesn't change the why, but it may change the what. And what I mean by that is maybe God has gifted you and graced you as a teacher, and maybe you teach in the classroom, right? And so, maybe you are beginning to feel overwhelmed by that, or you are beginning to feel like maybe your season is up. So he doesn't take the grace from you, but he may change the what in terms of what you're doing as it relates to teaching. And it's important for us to understand that. Maybe he's now shifting you to a place where you are teaching people individually, or you are teaching teachers, or you are forming curriculums, or you are creating culture in classrooms. Whatever it is, he doesn't change the why or the grace, but he may be drawing you to change the what. Okay. And so it's important for us to understand that burnout can be an indicator that it is now time for your what to change. The next thing that I talked about is your how. Oftentimes in our journey through purpose, we are zealous, right? We are zealous in our grace. We are zealous in our gifting, and it often causes an overload, right? And so when I talk about how, it has everything to do with how are you handling the grace in which God is giving you? How are you handling the assignment in which He's giving you? And that is another indicator of burnout, because burnout may be saying, are you trying to be everything to everybody? Are you doing too much? Do you have knowledge of your capacity? Maybe you need to back up. You have 10 things on your plate. Maybe God is only ordaining 5 in the season that you're in. So that is your how, right? So oftentimes burnout is an indication of maybe you need to change your what, right? And then the other part of burnout is maybe you need to change the how. And I think this is important because, again, we are all created, right, with a purpose, with a plan, right? And so God ain't changed his mind about us, but there has to be an understanding that in your journey, the why never changes, but the what and the how does. And so I just want to encourage someone, take a look at that. I want you to really begin to think about, do you need to revisit your how and your what? Right? Do you need to begin to reflect upon, right, what God is saying to you? Because sometimes sometimes there are many of us who, guess what, will change the what. Right? We'll change the what, thinking that is the answer, but it may not be the what. It might just be the how, or we'll attempt to change the how as opposed to addressing the what, right? So it's important for us to have a relationship with God and an ear to hear so that we can hear what God is saying to us. I truly believe, as kingdom citizens, as children of God, guess what? We need to know and acknowledge, and we need to be led by the Spirit of God. Now, it's not a perfect process. There are times when our flesh and our desires gets in the way, and we think we hearing God and we're not. But guess what? There should be a set intention for us to hear God and to obey. God bless you, everyone. And I want you to begin to reflect about what we talked about.